Hi everyone, so here we are in April and block number 3. If you've only just found this video on YouTube and you want to go back and watch blocks 1 and 2 for this quilt along, there is a quilt along playlist on my YouTube channel. So the two fabrics that I've chosen today are this one and the plain white. So that's all I need today, two pieces of fabric. The grey fabric is from the Fat Quarter bundle, which is available from Maker Superstore. And if you go to my forum, there's a quilt along section, and there is a discount code to get the Fat Quarter bundle, along with any other of the supplies that you may need. So I'm just going to flip you over to the ScanNCut machine and call up block number 3. So I'm going to go into patterns. I'm going to scroll down until I find the quilt section, and then block number 3 is in this second section. So I'm going to choose that, and we're looking for B022. So I'm going to scroll down until I find pattern number 22. The first thing I'm going to do is take the size up to 10 inches because that's the size of the blocks that I'm making for the quilt along. I'm going to set that on the mat, and then I'm going to try and cut all the white sections at the same time if I can, but I'm not sure whether there'll be enough room on the mat. So the first thing I'm going to do is choose element A. You can see here when I select it, it will show me the 4 corners. They're the 4 pieces I need. B is for the middle section, and then C is for the rectangles, and D is for the kind of half square triangles that's in the middle. So I'm going to select A and say OK. It's automatically added my 1/4 inch seam allowance on because that's what I've got set in my machine. So I'm going to say set, and now I'm going to go to add and choose B, which I'm also going to be cutting in white, and I'm going to say OK and set. So that's put the 4 elements on to my mat. Now I'm going to go to edit. I'm going to choose the 3 red boxes, and I'm going to choose this second box which chooses everything on the mat. And I'm now just going to click and just drag them down a little bit. I'm just going to bring them away from the top edge and the left edge of the mat. And that's just my personal preference. I don't like to cut fabric right up to these outside lines of the mat. So I can say OK, now I've moved them. And I can say OK again. So now I'm going to get my piece of white fabric, and I'm going to put this onto my fabric mat. So I'm just going to smooth it out. And it doesn't matter that the fabric's hanging off the edge of the mat. I've cut this, I think, bigger than I need, but that's perfectly fine because I can probably always use it again another time. But you just want to make sure that it's fully stuck down on the mat. So I'm just using the front side of the handle of my spatula, and I kind of hold my fingers on the back on the spongy bit where you change the blade, and I'm just going to smooth this out onto the fabric mat, onto the sticky part of the fabric mat. So now I'm going to take the mat and load it into the ScanNCut machine. So I'm just going to position it under the rollers so that the mat fits in the little tracks that are on the right and left hand side of the bed of your machine. I just place my fingers on the top of the mat just to kind of hold it there. Don't push it in. I don't lift it up from the bottom end or anything. I just let it sit on the bed of the machine and I hold it in place, and then I press the load unload button on the machine and let the machine take it in. I'm going to put my fabric blade into the machine and lock it in place, and then now I'm going to do a background scan. So I'm going to choose the background scan and say start. Now I know that you know, now I've moved these shapes on the screen mat, that they should cut from this piece of white fabric. But I'm just showing you, you know, the whole process. So if you're using a different coloured fabric, or if you're using a pattern fabric for this section, you know, if you get used to scanning it, and then you'll be able to see. So I can clearly see that my white fabric is up here, and this is the end of it here. So I think it will be okay, but I think I'm just going to move it all over a little bit. So I'm going to say edit, choose the 3 red boxes. It's actually still remembered that I've got everything selected. So I'm just going to click on one and just move it over a little bit. I'm not bothered about wasting a little bit of fabric on either side. I would rather that the ScanNCut cuts everything first time than me trying to squeeze the fabric, you know, right over to the edge of the fabric to save an inch of fabric, and then it messes up. So I'm going to say okay, okay, okay again. And because these were chosen from the beginning, the ScanNCut has positioned them as close as it can get, but, you know, so that they don't overlap. So I've jumped ahead a little bit here by mistake. I need to take the blade out. It's the pen holder I need. I'm just bringing in my purple strap pen, which is my air erasable pen. And I'm going to pop the pen into the holder and then put the lid in the little piece on the top and drop my pen in, because I want to draw my sew lines. I'd forgotten. I'm just getting ahead of myself. So I'm just going to come back to the screen, and I'm just going to say select, and I'm going to say draw. So it's going to draw the sew lines for me. So I'm going to say start, because I know that everything is positioned where it should be. The machine is telling me to move the lever, so I'm going to say okay, and I am now going to draw the lines. Okay, so it's saying to me, do you want to select the next part or finish? Well, I don't want to select the next part, because that would want me to pick up the other elements of the block. I actually want to cut these. So I'm going to say finish, which takes you back to the page where you can choose draw or cut. So now I am going to take the pen out, and I'm going to put the blade in. Okay, so I've now got my fabric blade in. So now I'm going to say select again, and this time I'm going to say cut. And now it's going to cut my 1/4 inch seam allowance around all the purple lines it's just drawn for me. So I'm going to say start. Okay, so now that has finished, and it's asking me, do I want to select the next part, which I do, because I want to go on to the patterned fabric. So I'm going to choose that. So now I'm going to choose the section C and say okay. And because I set the size at the beginning, it automatically knows that what size it needs to put this on the mat. So there are the 4 elements that I need. And then I'm going to say add, and see if it will let me add element D, and say OK and set. Now it's telling me there's not enough space on the mat, maximum is 3. So I'm going to say OK. So I'm going to take that down to 3 and say set. And then I'm going to rotate them and see if I can get the 4th one on myself. So because my fabric isn't directional, so it doesn't really matter whether I rotate these around or not. So I'm going to choose one of them. I'm going to go into edit, object edit, and rotate it, and bring it over here and put it in there and see if I can make it work. I may have to move this one over to get that one in. So now I can say okay, 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 add, choose block D again, say okay, and then because I've already got 3 on the mat, take this down to 1 and say set. And now I've got the 4 elements on here, but again, I'm going to rotate it just to make sure I've got enough room. So with one of them selected, I'm going to go Edit, Object Edit, Rotate, and say OK, and then move it. So now, hopefully, I've got everything that should cut from my next piece of fabric. But before I go any further, I'm going to unload this mat and I'm going to peel away all the waste fabric. And I've now got the white sections of this next block. So if I can get them off this mat. So that's the centerpiece. And then this mat is actually quite sticky. So the edges are fraying, but don't worry about that because I've got more than enough seam allowance. If you are a little worried, what you can do is iron some spray starch onto the back of your fabric before you put it down on your mat, and that might help stop some of the fraying. So that's my 4 or 5 sections for this block. So I'm just going to pick up any loose threads. So I think that will probably do for now. I need to bring in my next piece of fabric and put this onto the mat with the right side down, because again I'm going to draw the seam allowance, so we need to draw it on the reverse. So I'm going to position it on the mat, smooth it down gently by hand, and then I'm going to bring in my spatula. And I kind of like to work from the top to the bottom and then move out to the sides. That way I find you don't get as many wrinkles. All this fabric I cut up at the beginning of the quilt along, so it's all been folded up in like a bag where I'm keeping all my quilt along supplies. So that's why you might be able to see fold lines. It has all been ironed. It was all ironed originally, but it should be okay, hopefully. But if not, I've got plenty of fabric. And if I have a problem, I'll just, recut an element. So I'm just using the back of my spatula again, just to rub it all down. And now I'm going to load this mat into the ScanNCut. I'm going to take the blade out, put the pen back in, and then I'm going to say OK, OK, and do a background scan and start. Now I can see where my fabric is, and I can see that these blocks here are too close to the top and the left-hand edge. So I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to say Edit. I'm going to choose the 3 red boxes, and if I choose the box on the right, that will choose everything that's on my mat. So now I can press on one of them with my stylus and it will move them all together. So I'm not sure how well you'll see, but I've got a gap now where I can see fabric around both these edges and along here. And then when I say OK and just click anywhere on the page to deselect, everything looks as though it's all going to cut and draw nicely. So now I'm going to say OK, OK, select and draw, and start. Okay, so it's asking me again, do you want to select the next part? Well, there's no more to select because I've got everything on the mat. I'm going to say finish, which takes me back. And then this time I'm going to select cut. I'm going to take the pen out and put the blade in, and I'm going to press start. I can see over on the right hand side down here, not sure how well you'll see it, but the fabric doesn't look as though, it looks as though it's moved on the mat. So I'm just making sure that I smooth it down in that area. And I'm just going to pause it because it's caught the fabric. So I'm going to say quit cutting and OK. And I'm just going to cut this little section away so that I can re-stick this back down on the mat. These things happen and it's not the end of the world. as long as you know how to rectify them. So I'm just going to clip that away and clip that away. That one's already cut, so I can remove it, and that will just help to get it out of the way. And I'm just going to re-smooth this fabric all down. Make sure it's all fully stuck on this mat. This mat is the original fabric mat I've had, and I've used it quite a bit, so it may just need another clean to make it spring back into life. You know, it should be okay. We'll press on. So I'm just going to go back to select on the machine and cut, and it should start from where it finished. I can actually see the fabric moving a little. So you do have to keep your eye on it. I just don't think it's fully stuck down enough on my mat, but it hopefully will be okay. It is cutting fine. There's no problem. It is cutting. It's just moving the fabric. So I'm going to remove all the pieces. So I'm not moving the fabric down here because these are all positioned, you know, in readiness for where they are on the screen mat. But I've just cut away the bits it's already cut. It's cut this one, I think, so I can remove that one. This mat has been used an awful lot, so it might just be that it needs a good clean to make it sticky, but I don't really want to remove the fabric from the mat because I've already got my draw lines already on there, so I'm just trying to salvage it. But you know, these things happen, so I'm leaving them in so that you'll know not to panic and you know what to do. I basically only have the 4 triangles left to cut, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to get rid of all these big rectangles here so it doesn't try to cut them again. I'm just going to select one, go to edit, hit the trash and say OK, select the next and the next, and I've got that one down here, and then these are the only 4 things left on the mat, and they've already got the drawn lines on the fabric. So I'm going to say OK, OK, select and cut. And then I'm going to just try and make sure that this remaining piece of fabric is all smoothed down on this mat, and that hopefully it will cut the remaining elements okay. Okay, so that's all done. So I'm going to say finish, and I'm going to unload the mat and peel this away. And basically, I think my problem was I used the mat, obviously, as you saw, to cut all the white fabric. And then I just put this, I know I picked a few of the threads away, but I just put my next piece of fabric straight down. I think really what you should do is clean your mat in between, just to because if you think about it, it's like when you have a piece of sellotape. If you get a piece of sellotape and you put it on your clothing and take it off, it gets fluff on it. So then if you then try to put that on a piece of paper, it wouldn't stick properly. And this is kind of like the same principle. So I'm leaving in the errors so you know not to panic and that things can be rectified. I would wipe your mat over with an alcohol-free baby wipe in between each pieces of fabric. And I think that will help solve your problem. I have got a new fabric mat, which, you know, maybe I need to be using, but there seems to be a lot of life. This is still, when I touch this is now, not sure how well you can hear that, but it is still very sticky. Make sure your mat's been cleaned before you start so it's nice and sticky. Put your white piece of fabric down, draw your lines, cut your lines, take your white piece of fabric off, then wipe it all over with an alcohol-free baby wipe and let it dry, and that will bring the sticky back into life. And then put your next piece down and you should be fine. So we've got the big piece that's going to go in the middle. The white elements are the 4 corners. I'm just going to call the design up on my machine, but I'm sure this is right. So just trying to find pattern 22. Yeah, so we have the 4 blocks in the corner with the square in the middle. Then we have these elements that go here. No, it's not going to fit together properly because obviously we've got all the seam allowances. This grey fabric keeps wanting to curl up. And then you've got the pieces that go in the corners. Now that goes on its side, doesn't it? That's right. So this is why you need to refer to your pattern. These go this way, like so. That all sits like that. And that's basically how your block's going to go together. Obviously, this is all the wrong side. But again, I would take a picture once you've got your fabrics laid out like this on your mat. Take a picture again so you know how to sew it together. So I'm just trying to work out how I would actually sew this all together. I'm going to press everything before I start sewing, but I'm only going to do it very lightly because I don't want to stretch the fabrics. Usually I start kind of top left and work along. So I would normally sew that row together and then this row and this row. But I just need to work out how to do these. I think the thing with these is you need to sew your triangles first. And then this will sew to that and that will sew to that edge. So I'm going to give it a quick press. Okay, so here's the block. I've given it a quick press. As I say, I've not done it heavily. You can still see some of the crease lines are still in it, but it's sitting a lot flatter. And I'm going to take a picture of this now on my phone so I know how to sew it together. I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the half square triangles to this square that's in the middle. I think the way to do it is if I just move these down out of the way, you can see where your drawn lines are. So I'm going to put them right sides together. So I'm going to flip it over and put them right sides together. And I'm only going to sew from where the drawn line is here, which is about 1/4 of an inch from the edge to that drawn line there. So there's going to be a bit of a gap here. And I think that's then so that you can put this one in place. So once I've got those together, then this then just be able to go together in rows, if that makes sense. So I'm going to bring in the center square, which I've got the right side up, and I'm going to get my half square triangle and place them right sides together so that the purple draw lines match up. And then I'm going to start stitching where the start of the draw line is. So I'm going to start stitching here and come along to the end and stop. And I think that's going to give me the space to then put the other 3 corners on. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in a fabric pen and I'm just going to put a dot that I can see better at the start and stop of this purple line, or a line, anything that you can see better under your foot. So where I've got my drawn line that the ScanNCut drew for me, I've just highlighted the end because I can hopefully see that better under the foot so I know where the needle needs to come down. And then I'm just going to start sewing. And I think I just need to do one more stitch. So I'm going to finger press this out of the way. And because I didn't start sewing, I've got this gap now. And I think this is going to help me when I put the next piece on. So I'm just going to keep sewing from point to point, but I'm going to highlight with my pen just so I can see it better under the needle where I need to start and stop. So I'm going to put my foot down and I'm just going to follow that purple sewn line. I'm going to take it nice and slow. And when I see that purple stop mark, I'm going to stop and cut my thread. Okay, so now when I open this one out and just finger press it and open this one back, this should line up. I don't actually know if this is the correct way to do this, but I think it is. So I'm going to fold them back in now. So this one, where I started, I'm going to fold back and press it out of the way. And then I'm going to do the same with this one. So I'm going to line this one up so that the purple sew lines line up so they're all right sides together. And again, I'm just going to mark start and stop line only so that I can see it better under the foot. So I'm going to drop my foot and just place the needle where I can see on that first stop mark and I'm just going to sew slowly down this ScanNCut drawn line. And I would just take your time with this. This is probably the most difficult bit we've done so far in any of the blocks. It's not really difficult, it just takes a little bit of thinking about, and I think I'm doing it the right way. There could be a far better way, and if anybody knows, just leave a comment under the video. But I'm stopping on that purple line, which is about 1/4 of an inch before the end, and I'm going to do the same. So I'm going to fold the corners out of the way now on this last piece and put this piece in. So I'm just bending those kind of little dog ears back, and then I'm going to put this one in and do the same. Make my start and stop sew line with those dog ears from the previous corner. Okay, so this is what we've got. I'm going to fold it all back and I'm going to give it a quick press and see what we've got. So this is how it's looking from the front. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to flip these all over to the right sides because I need to be putting all these right sides together in a few minutes. So I'm going to sew the top row together. So I'm going to flip this one over here and sew it. Now this time I'm going to sew right from the edge down the line. I'm not going to start, you know, here and here like I did on this one because I was matching up the corners. So I'm going to sew straight down here and fold that back, and then I'm going to put right sides together here, sew down this side and fold that one back, and then I'm going to do the same here and the same on the bottom. So this is how we're looking now. So it's just a case of making sure that you either press or finger press these open. And then this is going to be sewn on here. I'm going to sew straight along and flip it back. And the same at the bottom. This one's going to be sewn on here, straight along the bottom from edge to edge and fold it back. And then we're nearly done. When you get to your seams, nest your seams, get your seam from your top row and make sure it nests with the seam from the row underneath, and you can pin it or clip it. Just going to bring in a couple of wonder clips and just clip that there and do the same here. Nest your seams so everything lines up and put a clip in. Take that to your machine and sew it and do the same on the bottom. And that's it, that's the block finished. So I'm just going to give it a quick press and then I'll show you. Okay, so here we are. So it's not perfect, it's lined up in most places. I am off in this corner, but I'm not going to let it worry me in the slightest. I'm just going to give it a quick measure. It measures just under 10.5 by just under 10.5. So I'm going to square it up again like I did the last two blocks and make it 10 inches. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to find where my seam is, you know, pretty much perfect here. And I'm going to line one of the lines on my ruler with that line. And I'm going to cut off about 1/8 of an inch. This line here looks pretty straight. So I'm lining that up with a line on my mat. Then I'm just picking a line on my ruler here to line up with this line. And then I'm going to bring in my rotary trimmer and just trim off a tiny little bit just to try and get myself a nice square edge first of all. So that's what I'm taking away. So now I've got a nice straight edge. I can bring this over to the corner of my mat and line it up on the 0, 0, and then just have a good look and see. So again, I've got about 10 and a quarter, and I need to make it 10. Actually, I can see where the purple draw line is coming through from underneath from my ScanNCut, and that purple draw line is bang on 10 inches. And if I do cut that off, that leaves this square exactly 2.5 inches. And if I come over to here where I've just squared up this left hand edge, this square is 2.5 inches. So I know that I can take off. I'm going to turn it round and do it this way. And I'm going to use my ruler, and I've got a 1/4 inch line on my ruler. So I'm going to line up one of the lines with the bottom edge, and then line up the 1/4 inch all the way up and trim 1/4 inch off. And then I'm going to do the same with this. And that's about, so I think I need to trim a tiny, tiny little slither off here again. So I'm lining up a horizontal line on a sewn line just to give me a nice straight edge. I'm virtually, taking nothing off. And then I'm going to flip it round, bring it back down on my ruler and see what we've got. And again, I can see I need to trim 1/4 inch. So I'm going to do it this way because I can use my ruler better by lining up the 1/4 inch edge. So I might be off ever so slightly, but I'm not going to let it worry me. So now this should be 10 by 10, and it is. So that's block 3 now, all squared up to 10 by 10. As I say, it's not perfect, but it's as near as it's going to be, and I don't think it'll be noticed when I get the other 3 blocks around it. If this is the first video you've found and you don't know about the other blocks, this is what we've got so far. This was block 1. This was block 2, which I'm thinking I'm going to put something like this. This is block 3, and then next month we're going to have block 4. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do the layout yet, but we'll see. So we've got 3 of the 4 blocks sewn and cut ready at 10 inches square. 1 more block to make next month, which I think is a slight step up from this, but hopefully, we'll be okay. So this is block 3 for April. Then we've got block 4 to come for May. And then in June, it's going to be quilting it and assembling it. So please give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.